In 1870, Jules Verne gave the world an image that would haunt readers for generations. The submarine Times Nautilus, surrounded by a giant tentacled beast, its crew dragged down into the abyss. Centuries before that, Norse sailors told stories of the Kraken, a creature so enormous it could sink an entire ship with a single violent motion. That is the image most people still carry. A monster, a manhunter. Now, forget it, because the truth is almost the complete reverse. Across all of recorded human history, there has never been a single confirmed human death caused by a giant squid. Not one shipwreck, scientifically verified. Not one diver dragged to the ocean floor. The monster that popular culture feared for 200 years may never have seen a human face in its entire evolutionary history. But the absence of violence does not mean the absence of fear, because the real horror lies somewhere else, in a fact far colder and far more unsettling. It was not until 2004 that humanity captured the first photograph of a living giant squid. Not 1804, not 1904, 2004, the age of smartphones and the internet. We sent spacecraft to Mars before we saw the largest invertebrate on Earth, still breathing. It possesses eyes larger than a soccer ball, the largest eyes in the entire animal kingdom. But as you are about to see, those eyes did not evolve to look for us. They were built by tens of millions of years of evolutionary pressure to look for something else. An enemy, a predator, a rival, a thing so powerful that even now, almost no one has ever witnessed the two of them meet in the dark. This is not a story about a monster that hunts people. This is the story of the most solitary, most misunderstood, and perhaps the greatest warrior the ocean has ever created, in absolute darkness. To understand why the giant squid is so strange, you first have to understand the place it is forced to live, not by choice, but by the chemistry of its own blood. The giant squid inhabits the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones, depths of roughly 300 to more than 1,000 meters, where sunlight never reaches. Scientists call this the midnight zone. No photosynthesis, no color, only pressure, cold, and total darkness. And here is what almost no one knows. A giant squid cannot survive in warm surface waters, not because it dislikes them, but because its blood begins to fail there. At a chemical level, its blood carries oxygen using copper-based hemocyanin, not iron-based hemoglobin like ours, and hemocyanin becomes far less efficient at transporting oxygen. As water temperature rises, any giant squid found drifting near the surface is almost certainly dying or already dead. Its body simply cannot breathe properly in that environment. In other words, its world is limited, not by territory, but by blood chemistry. It is trapped inside a narrow oxygen window between two cliffs. Above it, water too warm to breathe in. Below it, water too depleted of oxygen to survive. As for food, the giant squid does not maintain a fixed hunting territory like a lion or a wolf. Prey in the deep ocean is scattered and scarce. So the squid evolved into something else, a solitary, mobile ambush hunter. Its two feeding tentacles, which can extend to nearly 10 meters, fire outward with explosive speed to seize deep-sea fish or smaller squid before the remaining 8 arms pull the prey inward toward the hard, parrot-like beak at the center. And this is what makes the story so unsettling. For nearly a century and a half, almost everything science knew about the giant squid came from corpses. In the 1870s, a series of giant squid carcasses washed ashore along the coast of Newfoundland, some measuring more than 6 meters long. Just in the mantle and arms, humanity learned about this creature, not by observing it alive, but by examining what the ocean threw back. It was not until 2004 then 2006, then 2012, that Japanese and American scientists finally lowered cameras to the right depth at the right time and saw it, alive, moving, hunting. We did not discover the giant squid. We were only just allowed to see it. This is the point where the story turns in a direction almost nobody expects. The giant squid's eyes can reach a diameter of 27 centimeters, larger than a standard soccer ball. They are the largest eyes ever recorded in the entire animal kingdom. For decades, scientists assumed those enormous eyes existed for one reason: to detect prey in the darkness. A study published in Times Current Biology in 2012 turned that assumption upside down. Those eyes are far larger than necessary to detect a fish or a smaller squid at close range. Instead, the researchers proposed something far stranger: that the giant eyes were refined for a completely different purpose: to detect extremely large objects, specifically sperm whales. By seeing the disturbances their movement creates in bioluminescent organisms through the water from distances of more than 120 meters at depths greater than 600 meters. In other words, the largest eyes on Earth were not built to find prey. They were built to see the hunter coming from very far away through darkness so complete that almost nothing else can pierce it. A biological radar system for a survival war almost no human being has ever witnessed. Now the speed, when the moment to strike arrives, the giant squid does not deliberate. It reacts. Like other squid, its nervous system is built around two giant axons, nerve fibers, many times wider than ordinary ones, allowing electrical signals to travel at extraordinary speed through the body. This giant axon system, present across squid relatives, is the same biological mechanism that helped Alan Hodgkin and Andrew Huxley win the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine in 1963, when they unraveled how nerve cells generate electrical impulses. The result is simple. When the giant squid's two long feeding tentacles fire outward, it is not a measured decision. It is a reflex shot, so fast that the prey has almost no time to respond. And then there is the confusion most people never realize they are making. The giant squid is often mistaken for its equally terrifying cousin, the colossal squid, Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni. Both compete for the title of the largest invertebrate on Earth, but almost everything about their weapons is different. The giant squid, Architeuthis, has suckers lined with small serrated rings along its tentacles designed to grip and tear prey apart. The colossal squid is frightening in another way. Instead of relying only on suckers, it possesses rotating hooks at the ends of its tentacles, true hooks capable of swiveling to lock into struggling prey. It lives in the freezing waters of Antarctica with a heavier, more muscular body, even though its total length may be shorter. One is a saw blade, the other is a rotating hook. Two weapons, two survival strategies, born from the same darkness. This is the part you probably won't expect. There isn't a single classic giant squid attack on a human to tell here, because none has ever been confirmed. The closest thing to a documented encounter happened on the 30th of November 1861, when the crew of the French warship Alecton, sailing off the Canary Islands, spotted an enormous squid floating at the surface. They fired at it repeatedly. They tried to haul it aboard with ropes, but its soft body tore apart, and all they managed to recover was a 14 kilograms or 31 pounds section of its tail. The squid never attacked the ship. It was simply dying at the surface, a place where, as we now understand, its body could no longer survive. So, where does this animal's real climax lie? In a video that lasts less than 30 seconds, filmed near Japan's Ogasawara Islands in 2012. A research team led by Dr. Edith Witter and Dr. Tsunemi Kubodera lowered a glowing lure to a depth of 630 meters, 2,070 feet. The device mimicked the frantic bioluminescent flashes of a jellyfish under attack. It was a psychological trap engineered specifically around the giant squid's hunting instincts. It worked. Out of absolute darkness, a massive shape drifted into view. There was no hesitation, no cautious inspection. Its two long feeding tentacles spread wide and shot straight toward the lure with the full speed of the lightning-fast nervous system we've just explored. This wasn't a calculated attack like a chimpanzee deliberately targeting a victim's face. It was pure instinct, a biological machine responding exactly as tens of millions of years of evolution had programmed it to respond. Strike immediately, without hesitation. Years later, Dr. Witter described the moment as the culmination of a lifelong pursuit. She had finally witnessed what almost no one had ever seen before: the giant squid behaving naturally in its own world, rather than being reduced to a drifting carcass or a torn fragment hauled aboard the Times Electon. But the most haunting footage isn't the attack. It's another giant squid, filmed in the Gulf of Mexico in 2019, roughly 3 meters, 10 feet, long. It was missing both of its long feeding tentacles. Scientists believe it had survived a failed attack by its true enemy, the sperm whale. It paid for its life with the very weapons it used to hunt. Broken, mutilated, but alive. And on the heads of most adult sperm whales examined by scientists, the evidence of these battles remains permanently carved into their skin. Rows of perfectly circular scars. The marks left behind by serrated suction cups desperately clinging on during the final moments of a fight for survival. This is the giant squid's true record of violence, not against humans, but in a relentless struggle for survival that has played out for millions of years in the deep ocean far below the reach of sunlight and almost entirely beyond the view of human cameras between two of the largest animals from two completely different branches of life on Earth. The giant squid does not live in groups. No pack, no alliance, no social politics like chimpanzees or dolphins. It is profoundly solitary, and that is not a flaw. It is the most rational survival logic possible for a predator, living in an environment where food is too scarce to share. But the dark intelligence of this animal does not lie in social strategy. It lies in the body itself, a biological design so strange, it almost feels like a cosmic defect. The giant squid's brain, like the brains of all cephalopods, is shaped like a donut wrapped around its own esophagus. That means this: if it swallows a piece of prey that is too large, that food must still pass through the central opening of the brain. In theory, one mistake in prey size could directly damage the very organ controlling its body. Nature placed this species' survival on an anatomical gamble with almost no margin for error. Its blood, as we said earlier, is blue, not red, because it is built on copper instead of iron. It has 3 hearts, not 1. 2 hearts pump blood through the gills to collect oxygen. A third, central heart, pushes that oxygenated blood through the rest of the body. And there is one truly dark behavior that has been confirmed through forensic biological evidence. Inside the stomachs of some giant squid, scientists have found the beaks of other giant squid. We still do not know whether this reflects active cannibalism or scavenging on dead members of the same species. But the evidence points to something unsettling. In total darkness, even your own kind may not be safe from you. This is not intelligence in the sense of long-term planning or remembering faces the way crows or chimpanzees do. It is a different kind of intelligence, a hard-coded intelligence written into the body itself, where every reflex, every structure, every piece of anatomy has been refined to maximize survival in an environment that does not permit even a single second of hesitation. This is the point where the hardest truth has to be stated honestly. The International Union for Conservation of Nature currently classifies the giant squid as least concern, not because scientists know the species is secure, but because we simply do not have enough data to determine whether its population is declining. Its apparent safety is not built on evidence. It is built on the absence of evidence, and that, by itself, should concern us. Yet one threat stands out above the rest, tied directly to the giant squid's single greatest biological weakness, the razor-thin oxygen window its body is forced to live within. According to studies projecting the effects of climate change on the deep ocean, by the year 2100, the waters inhabited by giant squid are expected to warm by more than 1 degree Celsius, decline by over 0.3 pH units, and lose nearly 4% of their dissolved oxygen. For most marine animals, those numbers sound abstract. For a giant squid, they amount to a sentence hanging over the chemistry of its own blood. As the ocean warms from above, its hemocyanin becomes even less efficient at transporting oxygen. At the same time, expanding oxygen pore zones squeeze upward from below, shrinking the narrow band of water where the animal can survive. The already razor-thin layer of ocean that its blood chemistry allows it to inhabit is being compressed from both directions at once. Meanwhile, another threat is emerging in the very depths it calls home. Deep-sea mining, the extraction of metal-rich polymetallic nodules from the abyssal seafloor, is expanding rapidly. The constant mechanical noise and clouds of disturbed sediment have the potential to disrupt the silent midnight zone where giant squid and the prey they depend on have evolved for tens of millions of years. It is an ecosystem built on darkness, stillness, and stealth. Disturb those conditions, and the consequences may ripple through a world we have barely begun to understand. The cruel irony is this: we have never observed the giant squid well enough to measure what we might already be losing, if, indeed, we are losing it at all. There is a paradox here that no other creature in this series has ever carried. This is the most mythologized monster in the history of human seafaring, and also one of the most harmless creatures to humans. In the entire scientific record, we spent centuries fearing a kraken that we invented ourselves. Meanwhile, the real animal, with the largest eyes on Earth, has almost certainly never once used those eyes to look at a human face. It did not evolve for that. It evolved to detect something else, a glowing shadow, weighing dozens of tons, moving through the darkness, straight toward it. A predator, an enemy, a force so alien to our world that we, creatures of the bright surface, will probably never fully understand the violence of that encounter. So the next time you see the image of a kraken in a movie, in a book, or in a game, remember this: the real creature behind that myth may be waiting right now, hundreds of meters beneath the ocean surface, lying in absolute darkness, completely unaware that you exist, completely uninterested in you, waiting only for a moving flicker of light. That tells it one thing: either prey is approaching, or the thing that hunts it is. The darkness of the ocean has no use for myths. It only has room for survivors. If this episode changes the way you think about legendary monsters, subscribe. We're only beginning to uncover what the darkness is really hiding. And in the next episode, we go deeper still to the only creature that can make even a giant squid hold its breath.